Have you heard of the two British OnlyFans models that are setting up these insane challenges online where they invite masses of men to have sex with them, in their definition sex, not in mine, film them, and then sell that content online and make several £100,000 per month? These are very, very disturbing cases, but I want to look at them from an intimacy coaching perspective. I want to analyze them from all possible angles with my understanding and my knowledge of sexuality, the erotic, and sexual development. Hi, this is Liana, Holistic Intimacy Coach. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to help you get better, wiser, and more discerning intimate lives. So, first of all, a bit about the cases for those of you that have not heard so far. Two women, one of them is Bonnie Blue, she's 25, British citizen. The other one, Lily Phillips, 23, also a British citizen. They are adult content creators. I think they sell their work on OnlyFans. And this year, they came to the attention of more people, so the mainstream, because they've set up these insane challenges where they invite men, large numbers of men, in a location so that those men can stay in line or in a queue to, they call it sex, so to have sex with them. I call it just to penetrate them and briefly, so for a few seconds, and then let the next one come and so on. One of them, Bonnie Blue, the 25-year-old one, calls this educational. Why does she call it like that? First of all, she says that she consents to this, and she sends, or she gets everybody to sign consent forms and non-disclosure agreements or whatever else. She gets tested, and I think in some cases she also asks those men to get tested. I hope so, at least. And she also says that because they wear condoms, and she gives them a few instructions or explanations, that's why it's educational. The other one, Lily Phillips, who apparently comes from an affluent family, she says that she's doing this because she enjoys it, and this is her view of a sexual expression for her, and she needs this, and she realizes that not everybody understands this, but she enjoys this. This is a woman that was documented by a guy named Josh Peters. There's a censored version on YouTube. And at the end of that material, Lily Phillips, the one that said that this was what she wanted, breaks down into tears. First of all, because she could not offer the kind of quality that everybody wanted. And secondly, because she said that she did not remember more than probably 10 of those men that she had been having sex with, according to her, in that day. Also, in terms of describing this context or the cases, you will find materials with them, so interviews, because they've been invited to podcasts. Some of them are confrontational. Like, for instance, Bonnie Blue was in a confrontational podcast in a panel of women, so she wasn't the only woman. But the man that was interviewing her at a certain point told her that this is not okay, men bringing their sons over and having sex with the same woman together, one after the other. Also, that in the long run, her family, herself, she won't be okay because this is not something that society will accept or will encourage, because from where I see it also, there's nothing related to health here, pleasure, like nothing, not to mention education. And also, were she to have kids in the future, her kids will also be stigmatized because their mother was passed from one man to another, and we're talking hundreds of men. Her retort or reply to this was, eventually, she did not give a effing thought to whatever society believed, perceived from her. I say this is inviting, in the long run, hatred, violence even, toward her and her children potentially in the future. The other woman that was crying at the end of the challenge showed clearly that this is not like intimacy. Sex is actually more than just somebody putting their genitalia into another person's genitalia. We're talking about a deep connection here. We're talking about satisfying different needs, taking probably more time, not just a few minutes, integrating the whole thing and talking about it, remembering the person. That's why you can't really have this with so many people. Now, if you were to look at it, because we're going to start looking at it now from various perspectives. From a natural perspective, the human body, woman's body, was not designed to be the receptacle of so many men and their DNA inside her body. From a natural perspective, this does not ensure better offspring. Absolutely not, like to the opposite. From an evolutionary perspective, there's no point. It doesn't lead to more children because a woman can bear so many children in her body. It doesn't lead to a better quality of genetic material. It just does not. From the body's perspective, it was not designed to be penetrated so many times in a short span of time. This is torture. This is exhaustion. This is perversion of what the body was designed for, in terms of men and women, by the way. From an escort's perspective, now I was never an escort, and it's not something that I ever can imagine doing. It's not something that I aspire to do either. However, just in studying the phenomenon, the high status escorts were actually the ones that were reserved to high status men. Just a few of them, or sometimes one. Do you understand me? So the selection was high to extremely high. In these cases where women are inviting over dozens, hundreds, and now in February 2025, 1,000 men, there's no selection there. It's the opposite of it. Not only is it not designed for a woman's body, but also in terms of, let's say that she was working in the industry, from her status perspective, it is the opposite of a high status. If you were to go down in history, the only situations in which you see many men penetrating the same woman is with mass rape, mass abuse, torture, denigration or degradation, punishment, or just mocking, okay? Denigrating, degrading a woman to such a low level that everybody can do whatever they want to her. This is the only context in which so many people had sex with a woman at the same time. We're talking at the same time or in a short span of time. So what these women are doing right now is enacting the very opposite of growth and evolution in one's intimate life or sexual life. It is the degradation, the abuse, the torture of a woman. So the sexual liberation or sexual revolution that technology brought to us, it was already obvious in the past that it was not going in a really constructive place, but right now it's going in a worse place. What you're also going to see online are interviews with these women's families, or allegedly they are their families. These women's families support these women. I cannot imagine how a father, I cannot imagine what pride would a father have. I can't imagine a woman feeling like sensing a little bit into this whole thing and accepting that her daughter be subjected to such a thing. Both of these women are saying that either they need the resources. Bonnie Blue, the 25-year-old, says that she's doing this because there's no other job that allows her to make so much money as she's making right now. She has already amassed a lot of resources. She has claimed that she has invested in several properties, but she's not stopping. And the only reason that she gives, she's not saying that she's enjoying this, but that she needs the money in order to secure a better life for her and her children. A lot of people have tried to explain to her that a better life is not just material resources, it is also the psychological, emotional, and social integration and wealth and harmony that are also required. And with the kind of work that she's doing, the only thing that she could ensure would be money, but not the rest. Imagine being the child of a woman that had sex with hundreds or thousands of men, and how society would perceive you, especially when you're inviting over men with their sons or wives to send over their husbands and all of that. You're really playing with a lot of delicate things there, and you're basically angering a lot of people there and inviting violence, hatred, isolation in the long run. Not to mention stigma drawn to you and potentially your children also. The erotic in us is also the meaning that we attribute, how we select the people that we are intimate with, how we grow, what emotions we put in there, the wisdom that we extract. All of these. The erotic is the unseen part of sexuality. That is an extremely powerful and important tool in our lives. These women seem to lack that understanding, and they spread these challenges as the next cool thing to do. In some of the reactions, because I've seen so many reactions online, not just to the women, but I'm looking at them in particular because they are the generators of these online. So as the person that initiates this, coordinates this, and then sells this to make a profit, you have responsibility. You could have been a man or a woman, old, young, I don't care. You are the initiator of this, and so from where I stand, you have responsibility over what you're doing. So that's why I'm mainly concentrating on them, because they are responsible for this. Also, there were people asking in the reactions that I've seen online, not just about the mental health of these women, but also the maturity or the mental health of the people around them who are enabling these. Because these women have teams of people, they have families, nobody's questioning what these women are doing. Not around them. Okay, the only people that are questioning these are other people who are obviously not engaging in that endeavor. Thirdly, I've seen reactions, especially by men, and here's where I really appreciate those men, criticizing the men that go to stand in a line to have access to a woman's vagina for a few seconds. Not only giving up their self-respect and self-worth in that moment because they show desperation, according to those men analyzing this, but also pointing out that a father cannot possibly educate his son by having sex them together with the same woman. That's not normal. Because if you were to think of it, you could go in so many sick places like incest here in the name of education, okay? Father and son having sex with the same woman. So there is something very disturbing about those men that believe that they're taking their sons to be educated in that way. But also the men that are willing to queue up and be the 50th, 60th, 100th, or 1000th man that is penetrating this woman in a short period of time. Not to mention the health risks that are there, statistically speaking. A lot of those men were challenging the men that go to these challenges, saying there has got to be a better way for you to find yourself a partner with whom you can have a proper intimate life, and not somebody that is giving their body away to everyone. Like, you don't mean anything to that person aside from the genitalia that inserts itself into her and that is being sold. And yes, those women are selling the material, But the men that go there for the educational part of it are not getting any dime. And if they don't choose to have their faces hidden, they can be exposed for life. And this one is not something that will lead in the long run to those men's intimate fulfillment, intimate growth. Okay, there's no respect there in their sexuality, but a lot of desperation, a lot of lack of self-love and self-respect. And this was something that I've seen in men YouTube creators speaking, and I was so happy that they spoke up, because this is not normal. The next thing that I want to bring up here is, how could this be done? There was at least one woman, a young woman, who looked at this case and she wondered, how could you have sex with 1,000 men? Like, how could that happen? If in the case of the 100 men, Lily Phillips, she had them coming in the room one at a time for a duration of 5 minutes each. And she said that she also took a few breaks to get electrolytes, to eat a little bit because it lasted for 14 hours, and also wash herself. Some of those men were not careful, so they were not careful. At the end of the day, her eyes were stinging. So even in that sense, she was tired, and she broke down into tears. And this is the woman that never went to a psychologist, not before, not after, but then she decided several days later that she's doing a 1,000 men challenge. So if you want to go down this line with this discussion, I can give you a potential explanation in terms of numbers, but I'm going to say it right from the get-go. This is not normal. I do not recommend this. No way. However, let's get into the numbers. If your definition of sex is just penetration, then there are 3 places in a woman's body that can be penetrated by a man's genitalia. If you are to divide 1,000 men by 3, then you get 333 such acts. Okay, so 3 men, each one penetrating the woman in a different place at the same time. 3 men, that's 1 act. And then you have to do 333 in total so that you can reach that number of 1,000. Horrendous. Some of those places, 2 of those places in a woman's body, can be penetrated by more men. If you've seen adult material online, you know that it's possible. So you could possibly have 4 men or even 5 men penetrating the same woman at the same time. Yeah, it does make logistics really difficult. But let's say that if you were to push physics a lot, you could have 4 or potentially 5 men penetrating the same woman at the same time. So you would have, if you were to divide 1,000 by 4, you would have 250 such acts in one day. Or if you were to divide 1,000 men by 5 at the same time, you would have 200 of such acts in the same day. Horrendous nonetheless. The human body is not designed for this. If your definition of sex is not just with penetration, and you could potentially include stimulation by hand, then a woman has 2 hands and she could be penetrated in 3 places and then stimulate with her hands 2 other men at the same time. So you would still have at least 200 of such acts done in a day. In terms of time, if you want to divide the 1,440 minutes by the given number of men, you can reach up to, 4 minutes, 43 seconds, 3 minutes, 40 something seconds. If you are to push those men to be faster, you could reduce the time to maybe 2 minutes per one of those collective acts, so that she could also have time to breathe. This part of the body that can also be penetrated sexually, the airwaves would be obstructed. So she would have to have time to also breathe, because otherwise, what are we talking about? Here's the largest risk for her life that I see, if I'm to look at just numbers. Not all men in the episode of 100 respected her. They wanted to be satisfied themselves, but not everyone was careful with her. If you have a woman that is being penetrated so many times throughout the day from all possible places, but the man that is penetrating here is not careful enough, if he takes more than, 10 seconds extra from what her resistance is to holding her breath, she could be exposed to injury, life-threatening injury. This is where I see the biggest risk for her. So another woman, when she heard that this woman stated online that she was in training to be able to have sex with 1,000 men in a day, she couldn't imagine what kind of a training it would take. Here's my perspective, although I'm going to put the same caveat. I don't recommend this to anybody. This is the definition of the opposite of beautiful, fulfilling, heartfelt intimacy. The very opposite. This is torture, abuse, and everything else. So even if she were to prepare in the ways that I think, I'm going to explain how, I don't see her withstanding this and being healthy mentally, emotionally, or physically at the end of the day. I just don't see it. As for the training, all the places that can be penetrated in a woman's body are essentially muscles. Okay, we have muscles in the throat, muscles in the pelvic floor. So the vaginal opening and the vagina itself is a muscle. The anal opening and the anus itself is a muscle. Those muscles, especially in the pelvic floor, can be trained for flexibility. And this is the kind of training that women go through if they prepare to give natural birth. Okay, so for flexibility, there are rubber tools that usually OBGYNs know of and they prescribe to women, that are inserted naturally in a woman's vagina, and then they are inflated with air so that they can reach a circumference of at least 10 centimeters. I'm going to put on screen in inches. You could do this for the pelvic floor, for both the vaginal opening and also the anal opening. This could be one of the trainings. The other training would be for strength. If you push the muscles, but they don't have any strength, then you can lose laxity for good. And this is what happens over the long run with people. They lose laxity in the muscles. And this leads to incontinence in their old age. And what these women are doing right now, they're playing with their body in ways 1,000 men in a day. 1,000 men in a day. This is... So strength training, essentially, this is known to women. After women give birth and the muscles lose a bit of their laxity, they can do training with objects that are heavier, and we're talking from several grams to several kilograms, gradually under supervision. So those muscles, for women, this is known as vaginal weightlifting. The tools there are Benoit balls. These are steel balls that you insert in the vagina, and all you have to do is hold the muscles and hold those weights. That's not easy in the first place. Or you can have weights that are attached to one tool that is inserted in the vagina, and you lift and lower those weights from, again, several grams to several kilograms. For the anal opening, you wouldn't insert balls inside because they could go up the colon and you have a health threat right there. So probably the only thing that you could do would be anal weight lifting. So you would insert a tool with a safety latch and attach weights to that tool, and again, hold or lift and lower the weights. For this part of the body, this can't expand itself too much. Like, there's not much you can do here in terms of laxity. There are some exercises that you can do just to strengthen the muscles of the throat or of the neck. But essentially here it would be breathwork training, to be able to hold your breath for longer periods of time. Yes, because remember, in the math that we did, she would have to be exposed to 333 penetrations, one after the other. So that would mean that she would have to be able to hold her breath for a given amount of time, a lot of times in a day. This is, again, the biggest and the immediate life threat that I see in this insane challenge. As a breathwork coach, yes, because I'm not just an intimacy coach, I'm also a rebirthing breathwork coach. And yes, you can use apnea or breath holds, but not so many times in a given day. What she's planning to do is just abuse, torture. Even if she consents to this and she wants to say that she's doing this because she wants to, this is just, no woman wants this. Why are these women doing these challenges? Ignorance, lack of self-love, the pressure to come up with something more outrageous in society, because this is what they're doing, is outrage marketing. They want to shock more and more because the video chat, online, OnlyFans, probably in order to amass large amounts of money, there's not much that you can surprise with, so you got to come up with these shocking things. But this is where it gets sick, in my opinion. I don't even know why British authorities are not alerted to this. And I can't imagine why they're not stopping this. The risk of spreading instantly, in a very short span of time, to a mass of people, sexually transmitted infections is large. Just that risk. Secondly, the risk that she chokes, dies, or severely injures her body is also there. Also, there's nothing sexy, there's nothing healthy about this. This is just a woman accepting to be tortured, raped. Even if you consent to it, it doesn't make it anything else. And as for education, because remember, there is a woman there that says that this was educational. Please believe me, you can get education with certified sexual educators that will tell you about safety, that will tell you about transmitting sexual infections. They will tell you about how to apply a condom. They will tell you about a woman's anatomy. They will tell you what kind of questions to ask and how to know how to please or find out how to please the woman that you're with. They will tell you about the signs that a woman is probably no longer enjoying it so that you can recognize them. If you want to learn technique, there are a lot of videos online done in non-abusive ways on props or just on people's bodies, because some people, yes, accepted to have those educational materials done. There are ways in which you can learn. Going to stand in a queue, to enter the same woman's body that so many other men before you on that spot entered is not educational. It's not, okay? The very essence of this is the opposite of what a beautiful, fulfilling, satisfying, intimate life is. Take it from an intimacy coach. Whenever women come to coaching sessions, and if there's ever a mention about women being subjected to multiple men penetrating them, okay, a gangbang, it's usually in the form of abuse. Or if they witness another woman being penetrated by more men at the same time, it is also usually in the terms of abuse. Most women on this planet are highly selective. Please understand. Most women on this planet need more attention and more time to be fulfilled in intimacy. You cannot just expect that no matter who shows up, because they're not selected. They are not. They are just invited and they answer an invitation. No matter who shows up and you like them and they are exactly what you want and they please you, no. No. So why do these women do this? Lack of self-love, lack of wisdom, true erotic wisdom. This is not the evolution of people and sexuality that we want to see. This is degradation. This is the very opposite of it. I'm going to stop right here because there's really nothing wise here to do, but probably somebody from the United Kingdom to alert the authorities. I can't even think which authorities, probably somebody related to public health, because ultimately this is a public health risk, psychologically, emotionally, physically. It's a public health risk. And somebody in that country should alert the authorities and put a stop to these. If you've stuck with me so far, I'm really curious what you took out of this. And please, if you want to do something useful for your life, invest in proper education, invest in sessions with a psychologist that is specialized in psychosexuality, or with a coach, a sexuality coach. I'm one of them. There are other people on this planet. You can address your questions there. You can learn about what you need, what your partner needs. You can go as a couple. Like, you can go to marriage counseling. You can also go to sexuality coaching as a couple and get your answers there. Get guidance, brainstorm for things that you can do constructively and safely in your intimate life, the two of you. There are better ways to go about this, okay? Invest your time and your money where you are better served. That's it. That said, I'm gonna show up here with other topics because the holidays are coming and I want to bring something lighter to us also. I wish you a beautiful day and see you in the next video. Bye.